Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Nation Off-Road. So today what we're going to be doing is changing the ring and pinion on Winchers, because after 8 months of constant abuse and wheeling this thing hard, we finally broke the truck. I was wondering what was going to break first. Was it going to be the transmission? Was it going to be the transfer case? Was it going to be the engine? No, it was the rear end. So we ended up breaking the ring and pinion out in Azusa. Insert clip right here. Now, what I want to do for this video is kind of just take you guys on a journey. First of all, diagnosing ring and pinion problems, you know, and going from there. You know, we're going to tear it apart. We're going to show you what happened, and then we're going to fix it, install it back in there, and then do everything like that. So kind of just want to get you guys some more information on ring and pinions. Just that way, if you guys are in the same position and things happen to you, you know exactly what you can do in those situations. Now, when it comes to your ring and pinion, it's pretty distinctive when you break it, because first of all, it'll make a certain ting noise every time you rotate the tires. Yeah, it was already broken. And typically you can tell it's a ring and pinion as opposed to, let's say, an axle shaft, because when an axle shaft breaks, only one side will stop spinning. But if it's your ring and pinion, then you'll have both sides not spinning, especially if you have a locker. And that's what I went ahead and did to test out when I broke this in Azusa. So I put the truck in two-wheel drive, and I kind of just tried to do a burnout in the dirt, and it turned once and then completely stopped spinning, and it went that tells you that it's a ring and pinion. If it was the axle shaft, only one side would be making noise and it wouldn't be spinning. It's pretty common for the ring and pinion to go out on these Toyotas, especially in the rear, because a lot of guys, they'll beef up the front. After they sass it, they'll put the long field burr fields and chromoly this and chromoly that, and then leave the rear axle the same. Now, these IFS rear axles is an 8-inch ring gear, which isn't too bad. It's, you know, it's not a Dana 44, it's not a 1-ton or anything like that, but it's usually strong enough for 35s. But when you go 37s, then you can risk breaking stuff. So usually that's the first thing to go on these trucks. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get mine replaced, and then we'll continue sending it from there. But along the way, I want to check the locker, I want to check the bearings, I want to see what broke exactly and what's been damaged. Because the other thing about this is when you break a ring and pinion, you can continue driving even though it's going to make a ton of noise. You're going to be driving, it's going clink, 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 and it's going to continue chipping teeth until the ring and pinion and the rear end just doesn't work anymore. So because I was up in Azusa and I live relatively close to Azusa, I actually drove home with the bad ring and pinion, and I had to drive in 4-wheel drive because once you put it in 2-wheel drive, it would just slip. So I drove home in 4-wheel drive. It was loud, it was bouncy, and I couldn't drive very fast, but it made it home just fine. So because of that, I want to see what kind of extra damage did I cause to the rest of the system by driving home like that. And that's something that you guys can use for reference in case you're in the same situation. I wouldn't recommend driving far like that. You can finish a trail and you can drive back to your trailer, or you can do a short drive in 4-wheel drive. But just keep that in mind, it's not recommended, and it's probably not the best for the rest of the stuff in your rear end. So let's get started with cracking this apart. Right down there, we got a few things to take apart, and then we'll go from there. Let's get it. So first we're gonna have to drain the fluid. We're gonna have to take off, first you always want to take off the fill just in case if this is stuck, then you don't want to take this off because then you can't fill it back up. So it's always a good habit to take this off first. And then the drain plug, you can see mine's kind of mushroomed because the truck does get used. So when you get dragged across rocks, that this ring, it'll make it hard for the socket to actually go in. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just grind that down a little bit so we can fit the socket back in there. You guys ready for metal shavings? Oh. Up next, we got to take off a bunch of bolts to get this third member out. So on each side, we're gonna have 4 of 14s. Then we're gonna have 4 14s for the drive shaft, and then you have a bunch of 12s to take off on the third member, and then you slide these axle shafts out on both sides, and then this third member should come right out. It is heavy, and there's probably gonna be a lot of oil and a lot of metal chunks falling out, but should be simple. All right, so my problem is I have a free spinning bolt right here that I can't get off. Fuck everything right now. Give it a good smack. Now it's going back in. Fuck!
There we go, baby.
Fuck everything!
God damn. There it is. See, this shit came out. Bro.
How's my housing look? Honestly, fine, huh? Take that out.
This is probably fucking mangled.
I need that. I need to get one of those probably.
Yeah.
There's your problem right there, fellas. Good shit, Austin.
Thank God.
I'm cleaning up the axle housing real quick. So you always want to clean up, you know, the outsides, clean up the studs. I have one stud that I should replace. And then on the inside, I got to clean out all this oil because the oil has metal shavings everywhere. Because you can see on the rags, see all that darkness? You see the metal shavings on the floor? That's all broken diff pieces. Look at, that's my old gears right there. It's pretty nasty. So that's the thing that I'm doing right now. We're waiting for some bearings to come in, and then from there we should be able to get the actual third member ready to go. But until then, we just got to clean out all these metal shavings, get it ready to go. All right, we got our third member back. It's time to throw this old girl back together. Look at how sad she is. She has parts and toys and stuff sitting all around her. There's old leaf springs, there's control arms for the Tacoma, and then ice chests. Like, it's sad. It's really sad. Every time I've opened up my garage for the past, I don't even know how long it is, for a while now, it's been sad. She's just sitting back there, but it's time to get her fixed up today. So we're going to show you the third member, and then I want to show you guys actually what got damaged inside the old third member, so you guys can kind of have an idea, like if you break your ring and pinion, this is what you can expect, especially if you're going to drive on the trail 4x4 some more and possibly even drive home. These are some of the things that you can expect. Now, like I said before, I do not recommend doing this, but I went and did it because, first of all, I wanted to see if it would make it home. I didn't want to tow. And third of all, I wanted to get a video. I wanted to get the video for you guys. I wanted to show you guys the kind of damage that would happen when you do something like this. So let's get into it. Let's show you what's going on. So first off, here's our ring and pinion. Now, this is the stock housing that came on Winchers. This was chilling in the garage for years, and we've had a couple other housings. That's the one that broke over there. But we have the stock housing, which you know, the guy that did gears, shout out to Guero. I'll link him below. He's a guy that's wheeled with us a few times. He actually did the gears for me, so big shout out to him for that. Stock housing, we got a ring and pinion, 529 gears. We got Yukon this time, as opposed to the USA standard or whatever else they had before. And then a couple other things that we changed is we went from a regular Spartan locker to now a spool, which means it's going to be locked all the time in the rear. This should be a little bit stronger and a little bit better for what we're going to be doing. Now, something to mention with the gears, I upgraded to the 29 spline gears from Yukon. Now, I didn't know at the time that I bought 29 spline. Stock is 27 spline, which they're referring to this right here. So the Pinion has 27 spline stock. I upgraded to 29 spline, which means we ended up having to wait a little bit longer because I had to pick up this part right here, which this is just like a Yukon, you know, standard set, which this one will fit like a bunch of different drive shaft models, but this will bolt right up to our drive shaft in the rear. So this is beefed up. This is beefed up. The spool should be beefed up. So the entire thing should do a lot better. Now, granted, I'm going to be a little nicer to this one. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be a little nicer. Yeah, we're still going to send Winchers. We're still going to have fun. We're going to party. But I'm going to be a little bit nicer. I was pretty hardcore with it for a good month or two. I was really trying to break it. Wanted to test its limits. And we did test the limits. We figured out where she's going to break. So now we're going to just settle in. We're going to have a good time with the truck. And then we'll figure out what's going to break next. Now, looking at what broke, we'll start off with the ring and pinion itself. Take a look. Those are the teeth that chipped off right there. And then on the pinion, the teeth that actually chipped off, but you see a bunch of little chips and stuff right there. So these definitely took a beating. Luckily, it did get me home. And then you can see right here, that's all of our old teeth that came off right here. And then there's a bunch of teeth sitting on the floor underneath the housing that will get cleaned up after we finish up the truck. Now, the reason that we had such a hard time getting the diff outside of the housing is because this is a backlash adjuster, and this usually goes in right here on the housing, and you can see how bent and chewed up this one is. What ended up happening was this somehow backed itself out with probably driving around with metal chunks in there. Somehow this got stripped out, and this was just backed out a little bit to where it was getting stuck inside the housing, and that's why we had such a hard time taking this motor off the truck. We also broke a bearing race, and then you guys can see some bolts right here. The back of these are really stripped off because a couple of these had backed out, so those go inside the carrier. As it was spinning, these were grinding up against other stuff, which just caused more and more damage. And then the housing itself, you guys can see on the threads right there, it's all stripped out. So this thing definitely took a beating. So as I had mentioned, it took a little bit of time to get our ring and pinion back from the gears guy, and that wasn't necessarily his fault. What happened was I originally bought the 29 splines. We had to go get a new bearing set, so ordering from Amazon, I accidentally ordered, the first time I ordered the wrong bearing set, then I ordered the right bearing set. They sent me the wrong one, so I had to send that back. Then I ended up going to, shout out to Yotamasters for having this stuff in stock. Honestly, I should have went to them first. If you guys are in SoCal, Yotamasters stocks all this stuff that you need. I was going around ordering from Amazon thinking it's going to be more cheaper and more convenient. It wasn't. Go to Yotamasters. They're definitely going to save your ass in a lot of situations because they definitely saved my ass. So shout out to them. But they ended up having the stuff I needed in stock. Took a little bit of time getting parts and everything. So just like a lot of things, make sure you guys are doing some research. Make sure you're checking. Learn from this video because I made a lot of boneheaded mistakes. Had to spend some extra money, jump through some extra hoops just to get this third member in front of me today. So either way, we're going to get this thing slapped inside the truck. We're losing daylight, so I'm not going to film much of putting it together, but you guys will see what we got. Then we'll get the truck going, test it out, make sure it's solid, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Thanks, guys. All right, so I didn't actually get much footage of doing the test drive, but everything went well. As you can see here, you know, Winchers is out on the trail. We actually got her out to King of the Hammers the next day, wheeled with it a couple days, brought it home because we had some other issues with it, which you guys can kind of see in here. But everything went well with the install. No leaks, no problems, no vibration. The gears were good. The backlash was good. Seems like everything was working well. Now, a couple things to talk about before we wrap up the video. When it comes to ring and pinion and breaking in gears, you definitely want to make sure that you break them in correctly. It usually is recommended for 500 miles of driving, not very high speed, as well as don't drive for more than like 30 minutes, 45 minutes at a time, especially early when you're breaking in those gears. And then usually after that certain amount of mileage, you want to change the oil, kind of get all those new metal shavings, all that grinding, and those gears breaking in, you want to get rid of that oil, put in some fresh stuff, and then you'll be solid. Me, I drove about 250 miles. I'm going to drive a little bit more. Luckily, I don't drive the truck very fast, so I don't think I'm heating up the gears too much. We did wheel a little bit, but that's a consequence that I'll just go ahead and have to face. So that's all I got for this video. Hopefully you guys got some good info from it on diagnosing ring and pinion problems and kind of what your options are when fixing it, getting it off the trail and tearing it apart, and kind of the problems that you're going to run into if you continue driving on it, and all of those things that we talked about in this video. But tune in next time. We're going to be heading out to King of the Hammers, wheeling Winchers, wheeling some other stuff. We got a lot of videos from KOH 2022 coming up, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys. We'll see you again next time.